Hey everyone, my name is Dylan Mehta, and today we're going to talk about something that's extremely important but often overlooked: foreign exchange and global finance. So let's get into it. So, the big takeaway that you need to know is that foreign exchange, often called Forex, and global finance are all about how countries trade with each other, buy and sell currencies, and how inflation, interest rates, and GDP affect everything as a whole. So, what is currency exchange? So, imagine this: you and your friends are going on a trip to Greece. You've got your sunglasses, your tickets, and you're all ready and pumped. But one thing hits you: how are you going to pay for things when you get there? You can't just go into Athens, you can't just go into a store and hand them US dollars because they won't take it. So you need to exchange your dollars for euros, which is Greece's currency. So let's say you give the currency exchange booth $100 and you get 85 euros back. That means the exchange rate is $1 equals 0.85 euros. This number changes all the time. That's because the value of currencies is constantly shifting, depending on supply and demand, inflation, interest rates, and more. But we'll get to that later. The simple exchange from dollars to euros is your first step into a global system called the foreign exchange market. So when you converted your US dollars to euros, you participated in this market. It's where currencies from different countries are bought and sold. It's not just for travelers like you. This is a massive financial market, the largest in the world, where over $7.5 trillion is traded every single day. When you trade currencies, you're doing it in pairs, like euros to US dollars, which we saw in our example, or US dollars to Japanese yen, etc. Now, unlike the stock market, there's no Forex building. It's decentralized, meaning it happens online through banks, brokers, and global institutions. It runs 24 hours a day, Monday through Friday, so 24/5, because somewhere in the world, it's always business hours. So who participates in Forex? The major key players are central banks like the US Federal Reserve or the European Central Bank, which control money supply and interest rates. Commercial banks, helping companies and individuals make international payments. Governments, buying and selling currencies to control their own economies. Businesses like Apple paying suppliers in China or Europe. Investors moving their money into countries with better economic prospects. Or speculators who buy low and sell high, trying to make a profit off currency changes. Who decides the exchange rate? Here's the key question: who decides how much one currency is worth compared to another? The short answer is nobody. The exchange rate is determined by supply and demand, just like how sneakers or stocks go up and down in price. If more people want US dollars, the value goes up. We say the dollar has appreciated. If people start selling dollars and buying euros instead, the dollar depreciates, its value goes down. Most major currencies work under a floating exchange rate, meaning the market decides. But some countries, like Saudi Arabia, have fixed exchange rates, where the government pegs its currency to something like the US dollar. They do this to maintain stability, but it limits flexibility. So now we're going to talk about what influences exchange rates. The first is interest rates. If a country offers higher interest rates, investors from around the world will want to put their money there to earn more. That means more demand for the currency strengthens. An example is if the US raises its interest rates to 6%, but Europe keeps theirs at 2%, people will move their money to US banks to get more in return. The US dollar will go up. The second is inflation. Inflation means prices are rising. That's bad for currency. If you can buy less with the same amount of money, the currency is losing its value. High inflation means weak currency. An example: Zimbabwe once printed so much money that inflation hit over 79 billion% in 2008. People needed wheelbarrows of cash just to buy bread. The Zimbabwean dollar eventually collapsed. Low inflation, on the other hand, signals a stable economy, which attracts investors and strengthens the currency. The third is GDP, or gross domestic product, which most of you are probably familiar with already. GDP is the total value of all goods and services a country produces. If a country's GDP is growing fast, it means the economy is strong. Investors are more confident and want in. The currency gets stronger. An example: China's fast-growing GDP from the 2000s now attracted massive foreign investment, boosting the Chinese yuan and increasing demand for Chinese exports. Next is political stability and confidence. Currencies hate uncertainty. If a country has stable leadership, rule of law, and predictable policies, investors feel safe parking their money there. But if there's political chaos like war or corruption, the currency often drops. Example: in 2016, the United Kingdom voted to leave the European Union. This was called Brexit. The vote shocked the world and created a lot of economic uncertainty. The result: the British pound fell to its lowest level in over 30 years within 24 hours. Lastly is trade balance. If a country exports more than it imports, it's earning more foreign money, which can strengthen its currency. But if it imports more than it exports, it's sending more of its currency out, which can weaken it. An example is if the US imports too many goods from other countries, more dollars are flowing out than in. The US dollar may weaken over time. Now let's talk about how exchange rates affect global trade and tie it all together. So, if you have a strong currency, the pros are cheaper imports. Electronics, clothes, cars from abroad cost less. Also, traveling is more affordable. Your money goes further in other countries. The cons are exported goods become more expensive for other countries, which means that export companies may lose international customers. If the US dollar is strong, Americans can buy more foreign goods. It's great for consumers. But US brands like Nike or Ford may lose overseas customers because their products cost more abroad. Next is weak currency. The pros are exports are cheaper. Local businesses can sell more overseas. It also encourages tourism. Foreigners get more for their money. The cons are imports get expensive. You pay more for oil, iPhones, and foreign groceries. Also, inflation risk rises. An example, a weaker Japanese yen helps Toyota sell more cars abroad, but Japanese families might struggle to afford imported food or electronics since they now cost more in yen. So to wrap it all up, foreign exchange isn't just some nerdy finance concept. It affects your travel, your shopping, your career, and even the price of gas. Currency rises and falls based on interest rates, inflation, political stability, and trade. In the forex market, it's the invisible engine that runs behind global trade 24/5. Understanding this stuff gives you a global lens. You start to see how deeply connected the world really is. Thanks for listening and hope you enjoyed.